Okay, guys. So we had a really interesting topic this morning, but the lords of Zoom were like, no, this is not happening. So we're
Yeah.
going to do a complete 180, I guess. I wanted to talk about Heidi Montag.
Okay. Go ahead.
This is really
Okay.
taking a
Because
turn.
I just to give you context, I
Well,
just spoke for like 20 minutes on a topic, and we just lost the whole recording. So, but go ahead, Heidi Montag, let's go.
he's like, we've gone to this now.
Oh
Okay. This is,
gosh.
again, you guys, like, we'll rehash what we just talked about because it's super important. But like I think Josh is gonna have a little PTSD about that.
So bummed.
Um, so I guess like just Heidi Montag, right? Like she is doing meat based, as we talked about, I think previously. We just maybe we
Mm.
even mentioned it. I don't know. Eating beef heart in the street of LA. I actually listened to her podcast with Paul Saladino, which is like Carnivore MD, and they were talking in depth about why Heidi's doing it. She's doing it for fertility reasons. She wants to like have babies. And I actually like thought to myself, because deep down when I started Carnivore like 2 years ago, by the way, anniversary, 2 year anniversary just happened. So I'm like stoked. Yay, yay. But I remember like deep down, the thing that drove me to I guess, continue to keep up with Carnivore was like thinking like, hey, like I need to get my body sorted out to be ready to have babies. Like that was kind of like the driving force that kind of gave me motivation daily when I woke up, was like, hey, like you're not just going meat based to like fix your stomach, your knee problems, other things. Like you're doing kind of like a full scale like remodel and like vamping up your body to get ready to have babies. So like
Mm.
in like the backside of my mind, like, yeah, weight loss is cool, but it was more about just getting my body ready for babies. Cause I think you get to a certain age and you just like kind of, I don't know, have this stuff. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I hope it works for Heidi. Um, like,
So
you
is there any
know, and
is
I
there any
think,
is there any noticeable like is there any things that she mentioned or Carnivore MD mentioned specifically that sort of that she's doing that could help the average person that wants to have better fertility or
yeah. So just like getting more protein and specifically
mm,
the red meat. So a lot of times what happens is, especially like when you're vegan or you're eating super plant-based and process-based, you're not able to, well, first, you're not able to get the vitamins. So even if you are eating a lot of sugar and like carbs, we've talked about this, but glucose can fight with some vitamins and minerals that you're trying to absorb. Like it kind of like fights being like, okay, we're going to absorb the glucose instead of like the vitamin C, for
mm,
example. So like that's why, yeah, you can eat more red meat in your diet, but it might not be kind of like the resolve to things. I don't know if you know this, but Kelly Hogan, she was like, she could not get pregnant.
mm,
And so once she went carnivore, she was able to like get pregnant naturally with two kids.
amazing.
Um, and it just like totally like turned things around. She's like, I just didn't have like, it was the fat. So like the thing that is I've seen common in it is the fat part of things. So not just the protein, but the fat
Mm,
that you're taking in. If your
mm.
body doesn't have the fat in it, like we are talking about this, like if you have like a layer of fat, like that's that's okay. This is like Josh is so mad because we just had a whole topic about this. But if you don't have the fat, it's like
Mm,
harder to conceive, right? Like, and that's for people that, you know, are like super, super skinny on like the scale. So there's kind of like this scale where like if you're super, super skinny or if like you're super, super overweight and obese, like both of those are going to have issues with like
yeah.
getting pregnant. I mean, there's always exceptions where like people get pregnant anyway. But I found that I was listening to like, I don't know why, but like all these podcasts, just because I've mentioned that like I want to have kids and stuff, like I get all like these like alerts and like it just finds me. Like all these podcasts on fertility find me now, which is great. But I was listening to a doula story on one of my favorite podcasts called Real Foodology. And she like always has different experts come on. It's a cancer one I sent you. But she had a doula come on, and a doula is really like a birth coach. And so she like coaches you through like the whole birth, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're having a home birth, like whatever. And she had 2 kids, and she was in like the CrossFit friend. She was in the CrossFit world forever in LA. And so her first kid she had, and she had an awful postpartum, and she was just like eating a lot of vegetables and kind of keeping up with like the LA trends and like dieting, and like, red meat was not even part of her diet. It was more like lean meat and stuff like that. And she had an awful postpartum. Like she felt super depressed, like she had like anxiety, all this stuff. And then she had her second child. And during her second child, she was like listening to her body, eating steak like most days because she was craving it. And then postpartum for her child, she ate steak every single day, had 0 issues, like didn't have nearly as bad of postpartum the following time. So she was just saying like when people don't eat the protein and the fat, it like does something, I guess. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then she was talking about how like the placenta, it's getting not graphic, but so basically like she said, red meat, 100%, eat that every day postpartum and during your pregnancy, because it'll give it's the most, dense, nutrient dense, bioavailable food that your body needs. And she saw the difference in her 2 pregnancies. But the second thing is that she had seen people given birth that were like vegan. And like a lot of midwives have come out and said this as well, that the vegan placenta looks like a smoker's placenta. And the placenta it's like this flat organ that's basically, it's feeding all your baby. It's like the connection between your body and the baby. And so the baby's getting all its nutrients from the placenta, right? And so they were saying that like what they found is the vegan placenta looks like a smoker's placenta, like not getting enough nutrients, like super under, like it just looked really bad. And I thought that was super interesting. And she's like, yeah, well, you're not getting all the vitamins. So unless you like make a concerted effort to like try to get the vitamins by eating like thousands of garbanzo beans to get that protein and stuff, like she's like, it's not going to be good. And she said that a lot of people that were vegan that get pregnant, they end up craving steak and they end up craving meat. And some people ignore it. And then the people that end up giving in, they're like, oh my God, this is exactly, it's like nourishing. It was like exactly what they needed. So I found that super, I feel like all these like vegans are gonna be like, my placenta looked normal and like whatever, but isn't that cool?
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the podcast with Diana Rogers and Rob Wolf with Joe Rogan, and they spoke at length about how essentially like even the vegan equivalent of the vitamins that you're going to get are not as bioavailable as any animal products. So even though you think you can supplement your way to well-being and health, there's just no way you can't get certain vitamins like B12 in the most bioavailable form without animal products. It basically, they said, like Diana Rogers and Rob Wolf, who are like really esteemed researchers, said that it is literally, it is impossible. Like they went to that length to get the same amount. So yes, you can eat all these like beans and things that make up for the fact that you're not eating protein and soy protein and stuff, but the level of anti-nutrients in those food sources just don't even compare. And it's so difficult. It's so hard. It really is just so difficult.
Yeah, I can kind of give you more on the science to why it's more bioavailable for me and like why our bodies absorb it. So I might have mentioned this. I went on a podcast recently and they were asking me about this. But basically, if you're trying to get something and it's coming from an animal cell, so like we're made of animal cells, right? Obviously, like meat is made of animal cells as well, right? So the absorption rate of that and our ability to absorb that into our bodies is super, super high because we're made out of the same cells. However, if you eat a plant, which is made of plant cells, and you're made of animal cells, the absorption rate is so much lower because you're not of the same cloth, so to speak. So what's happening is like the plants might even be like to a level, I guess, like fighting to like be absorbed, but like they normally like pass through you. And we always talk about the poop. Like you never see like a huge piece of freaking steak in your shit, do you? Like,
Mm.
no, it's literally like corn. It's all the vegetables. If you eat vegetables, I haven't seen that in a while, but
Mm.
if you eat
But
vegetables,
the
right? Because they
fiber,
literally
that's
go
fiber.
through. Yeah, yeah, they go through. Yeah. No, but I think that's like so interesting. And I think also like people get so concerned, especially like around like fertility and people that are pregnant and everything too. Like they're like, oh, like if you're just eating meat, like, or if you're vegan, like, how are you getting the nutrients? And like, so I just did hair testing like recently because I want to see what my vitamin levels are, because there's a chance that like, hey, like I don't eat maybe as much fish as like I should, and I just want to see like what's up, right? So I had Taylor, like I had to give a tablespoon of my hair, and like it actually is a lot more than I thought. So Taylor's like going through my head, and I'm like, and he's cutting like patches, and you have to cut it like up to the scalp. So a lot of times they do vitamin and mineral testing for your hair because and toxicities, because what happens is your blood test is like it could be different minutes later, you know, and a lot of different minerals and toxicities like live in your hair, like they'll hold on to like in a hair follicle. And that's why they do drug tests via hair as well, you know, for like companies that like want to drug test people. So he's cutting out my hair. They basically like give me everything like postmarked and everything to send back. And it's called Honed. And I sent it back to this company. And what they're going to do is they're going to test for heavy metals, toxicities, all these different minerals and vitamins. So basically, like I can have that information, look at it. And then if I wanted to be like, I mean, they give you like the option to sign up for like a vitamin based on your results, you know, like you can get vitamins. I'm not going to do that because there's no point. Like I don't
Mm.
really like take it unless something's really low. Like unless something's really, really low, then I'll do that. But like, for example, if they're like, hey, like your, I don't know, like your folic acid is really low, right? I might be like, okay, like I'm going to eat more salmon roe. And like I preemptively already bought like a bunch of salmon roe just because like I know I probably need that in my life more. But it's just going to give you to see what you need in order to see the different vitamin levels. So if you are vegan, if you are vegetarian, regardless of, you know, what you do, um, get your vitamin levels checked. You know, like if you're in the US, I think it's like $126 for like the full service, which is pretty good.
Mm.
And it's available online to you. You can like keep the information forever. So I will have that for you eventually, Josh, like to go through, because I'm like super curious. Because what if they're like, oh, you have like a mold toxicity or something? Like that would be like
Yeah.
crazy. And I'd be like, wait, what? Like, I don't know. Have you ever had your vitamin levels checked like that?
Yeah, I've had a number of things checked. I'll say the first one, speaking of poo, is that I
Oh
had
no. Oh yeah.
yeah, I think we spoke about this a long time ago, but I sent when I was in South Africa in 2019, I sent a sample of my feces over to Europe to get tested, and basically it came back saying that I could have signs of SIBO. That was when I was really sick. I was losing a lot
Yeah.
of I was losing a lot of weight. I lost nearly 10 kilograms of muscle, and I was eating a lot. Not carnivore though, but I was eating a lot of calories, a lot of carbs, and nothing was making me put on weight. And it's the first time that's ever happened to me because, as many of you know, my story is I was very overweight. So I've been through it all. I've been through overweight, I've been through underweight, been through it all.
Yeah.
And it came back saying there were signs of SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. But basically, what happens is in your small intestine, the food that goes in there, if you have an overgrowth of bacteria in there, that bacteria will consume the food, aka fiber, aka carbs. So if you're eating carbs, you're not going to get any nutrients. It'll consume that before it reaches your large intestine. So your body won't have a chance to absorb all the nutrients. That's what small intestinal bacteria overgrowth is. And it's actually, the science on it's pretty weird because it's actually, a lot of it is caused by low stomach acid, funny enough. So if you don't have enough
Mm-hmm.
stomach acid, which can be from a number of things, alcohol, drug use, stress, so many things. If you've got low stomach acid, your body can't digest the nutrients it has, and bacteria can grow into your small intestine. So anyway, that was the
Oh,
first test I ever did of that nature.
yeah.
And then I also did a hair tissue mineral analysis test like you've done. That's the
Oh my
technical
God, tell
term.
me, how was it? Was it during Carnivore or when was it?
Yeah, it was the beginning stages of right before it was BC, right before COVID.
Okay.
I had it tested, and I was transitioning into like full carnivore then, and my magnesium was low, my copper
Interesting.
was high, my copper was really
Because of all the
high.
steak, because copper's in
No, so
steak,
from
but
the
it's also
liver,
really
no,
important.
the liver. So I was eating lots of chicken livers at the time, and here's the thing:
Oh,
is that back to the whole dogma in the community now is like you have to just eat all your organs and things like that. I feel 10 million times better when I stay away from organs. I don't mind a bit of chicken livers here and there, and I don't mind a bit of beef liver, but that's why I had Judy Cho on my podcast, is because she
yeah.
speaks about this, is that you can there's definitely an upper limit to the amount of organs you can eat. And in fact, if you've ever had too much chicken livers, you can actually taste the it's a very metallic taste in your mouth. It's a sign that your body is probably consuming something that's not of too much benefit to you if in large quantities. Obviously in small quantities it's fine. But interesting enough, my copper was high, and I was eating a lot of chicken livers, which have a shitload of copper in
I
them.
literally, whenever you say chicken livers, I'm just like, oh, like I just like kind of like, oh,
They
like,
really they're really good if you do them right. If you cook them in
oh
butter and they're a
God.
bit seared, they're really tasty. I love them. But I can't eat too many. It's a bit of a waste for me
Yeah,
to buy
yeah.
them, to be honest, because I can eat like 3 or 4 and then I'm already finished.
Well, okay, here's the thing. So, you know how Judy Cho always does like those things like the ribeye or like the eggs, and she has this thing and it
Mm.
says all of the different amounts of so I just want to can I just read like what's in a ribeye so
Go.
like people
Go for
know?
it.
I think that's kind of crazy. So these are all the different vitamins and minerals. I'll start with the minerals that are in the ribeye and
And
work its way
wait,
because a lot of people don't realize this.
bioavailable. Like, I can't stress that enough, people. Like, these are
Yeah,
bioavailable, which means that your body can absorb them. Like, yeah.
and use
Anyway, go
them.
ahead.
However, if you are eating too much sugar and processed shit, sometimes that can work as like a blocker for like
Mm,
absorbing this, which
mm.
is why when people ask why you don't eat carbs and shit, it's like, well, I'm trying to absorb as much as I can. But anyway, okay, minerals: calcium, copper, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, zinc. Out of all of these, the highest is phosphorus and potassium. Like I'm talking about in 100 grams serving. So in 3.5 ounces of a ribeye, there's 357 milligrams of potassium alone. That's fucking insane. Do you remember when people used to tell us, like, hey, eat a banana for potassium?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. Or like eat an avocado. It's like, dude, like the ribeye has it all. And then these are the actual vitamins. So you have vitamin A, vitamin B1, thiamine, which is B1, riboflavin, flavin, riboflavin, whatever.
Both.
B2, niacin, B3, uh, pantothenic acid, B5, vitamin B6, folate, right? Vitamin B12, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, choline, omega 3, and omega 6. And also, the only thing that's like, I guess, missing is the what is it? Biotin, which you can get from liver, salmon, egg yolk, chromium, which you can get from eggs, fish, or liver, and then manganese, which you can get from eggs. And then there's another one that I don't even know how to pronounce, which you can also get from eggs. So like I was looking at all this information and I was like, dude, if I eat eggs and like ribeyes, I will literally have a full circle of all the minerals and vitamins that my body needs. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
nuts. I still
Yeah.
like other things, like to put it in there, but like that's most, I would say, I don't know if you relate, like 75% of my diet is ribeyes and eggs and butter. Like 100p, that's going to happen in a day, probably, you know?
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
but I will say there was a person, I listened to a story recently where their son was like acting out and was super aggressive. And so they took him to like an integrative nutritionist. And the first thing they did was They ask a lot about diet and stuff, and they ask, questions about that. And this kid was on the standard American diet, and he was super aggressive and just had like, like just like a mean kid. And they're like, something's wrong with my kid. Like, let's like figure this out. They did like the hair test and everything, and it came up that his copper was really low. So when your copper is really low, your copper isn't there to be able to regulate different moods and like different receptors like in your brain. So like you can have too high of copper levels, but it's also really important to have the
Mm.
copper in there too. And so once they fixed the copper, and one of the things they did was they ate like more steak, not liver, because they were like a kid and they were like not into that. But they ended up like, kind of fixing his issues with aggression, which I thought was like so interesting,
Through
because
nutrition.
now I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's so, I don't know, it's so crazy that like you still have conversations with people today and they're like, diet has nothing to do with how you feel, or diet
Mm.
has nothing to do with your like your performance. Diet is nothing to do with that. And it's like, wait, like, are you really, you don't think anything that you put in your mouth is like related to how you feel? Like,
Yeah.
because here's the thing, like, there's some people listening where like they're super skinny. Like, I have friends where like they're super thin and like they'll eat like donuts and like not gaining weight, and they eat a standard American diet. And it's like, dude, like, yeah, you can do that. But like, here's the thing, like, 10 years from now, you might get cancer if you continue to eat like literally like, sugary candy daily and
Mm.
like eat something that's super processed. Like it's not like we're saying like, hey, like don't eat that because you're going to get fat. It's like, oh no,
Mm.
like there's people that eat crap that I'm sure you know as well, where like they're stick thin and they're like, well, I don't gain weight, so like I don't need to stop eating this. And it's like, dude, it's not about weight. Like it's like proven
Mm.
now that processed foods are like linked directly to cancer, right?
Mm.
It's
And
like, so it's much more.
yeah, and to be honest with you, like those people more often than not don't have never felt the the wrath of feeling
Mm-hmm.
really shit. And that's what I'm passionate about, is that those people that are they I mean they could go the rest of their life maybe they've if you were brought up with a mom that breastfed you and you were fed good food when you were a kid and you didn't go on too many antibiotics, you are you could go through the rest of your life eating Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast and you will be fine. But for the people that, didn't get breastfed, like myself, who had a mom that was vegetarian, who, you know, who, like, people that really suffered and people that have really been ill and know what it's like to feel the worst of the worst and to know what it's like to not be heard and not want traditional medicine shoved in your face. Those are the people that put health first, like you and me. It's not even like a question
Mm-hmm.
for me. I just do my thing. It's like those people for me, it's like it doesn't even, cross my mind, like, because one day, you're right, one day something could happen to them. But even then, if they're not self-actualized and they're not ready, they still might just go, oh, you know what, I'm getting old. I'm getting old now. Let me blame it on age, or let me just take another antibiotic, or let me have a gastric bypass. So they keep going and they keep avoiding the fact that, hang on, what I'm eating is fundamentally affecting me every single day. It's like what I'm eating is making
Yeah.
me day by day, minute by minute. The steak I had this morning is in me right now. It is producing hormones. It's in me. And back to, I
Yeah.
mean, I've said this before, but if you don't think that food has an effect on you, this might be the worst example in the world. Take a mushroom.
Yeah.
Take a mushroom. Go experience a psychedelic retreat, because you can take a little bit of mushroom or you can take a little bit of LSD, that's a freaking drop, and that can completely alter your
Yeah.
consciousness for 10 hours. So you telling me that nothing that you eat affects you on a level. In fact,
Yeah.
Anthony Gustin, who is the perfect keto dude, it's like one of the biggest keto brands in America. he had went to go see the Hadza tribe in when was it? In
I think
Tanzania
it
or
was last
something.
year during COVID.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he just ate a few berries on the tree. He just literally just ate a few berries. He was sick for like 3 days. That's a
Yeah.
few berries on a tree. Meanwhile, they're busy cooking baboon brains and organs, and they fine. But he goes and eats a few berries, and the dude's like completely out of it.
Well, I wanted to like shift gears, and we can just probably end on the note that like food's going to affect someone either in days, hours, and also 10 years down the line. Like,
Yeah,
God forbid you get cancer, but like just limit the processed food now, make those changes now, reel it back because everything will catch up, even if you're stick thin and you think it won't. Anyway,
mm.
okay. Something that I wanted to talk about, Josh, is that, I'm like obsessed with living this low tox life.
Hmm.
And I always find it interesting. Sometimes I have friends that like send me articles, whether it's about like microplastics in people's blood that's proven now. So they actually did a recent study into like people's blood and they found like microplastics in the blood because we consume so much stuff like hot food on plastic. We're heating up stuff in plastic stuff. Like, you make your coffee in a thing where like plastic comes through it, like there's just, it's in our blood now, like
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, so look into that if you're curious. What I wanted to talk about is there is a clothing company called Shein, S-E-S-H, I can't spell, Shein. It is a Chinese company and it's widely known for being like really cheap. Okay. Really cheap and like trendy clothing, right? It sells anything from like baby clothes all the way to like just normal, like women adult clothes.
Yeah.
What are we? We're women
What are we?
adults.
We don't even know.
What am I don't, who am I? I just watched Zoolander recently, so I was laughing. Okay. But the thing is that they did a test. They did a sample size of 38 pieces of clothing. And out of those 38 pieces of clothing, get this, 1 in 5 items had elevated levels of chemicals, including lead, PFAs, and thiolates. Wait, PHTHALATES.
Yeah.
Thiolates.
I don't even. If you
Okay,
see something
so
like
those are
that, you know
super,
it's bad. If you can't
yeah.
pronounce it,
So,
that's what
anyways,
I say.
so yeah. So those are super toxic chemicals. And the crazier part is, so 1 in 5 of this sample they did of an order they had, 1 in 5 had elevated levels of chemicals that are extremely toxic and are like carcinogenic. So if you want to know the level, so in our clothes, the level that's allowed is around 90 milligrams of these toxic chemicals are allowed in our clothes. Okay. That's what's allowed when they do testing of this. The amount of lead that was found, and this was one of the examples, was a baby's raincoat or jacket or something. And this baby's coat had a level of lead that was 1,702 milligrams. And the
Shit.
limit to have on clothes is 90 milligrams. What the hell?
What the
What
fuck?
is happening? So
Yeah.
here's the thing. Like I feel like we can like attribute this to like buying local. Like if something is made super cheap and
Mm.
you're like, yo, like all this stuff is like super cheap, like it's manufactured in China, like I guarantee you Forever 21 is not far away from that. Like I don't know where H&M's clothes are done, but like if there's cheap clothes that are being made, chances are that they're high in these chemicals, right? Um, so anyway, I just wanted to like put that out there as like a PSA. Like if
Mm.
something's super cheap, like you might as well just like, I don't know, maybe save and then like buy the thing that's maybe like a little bit more expensive, a little bit more
100%.
local,
Yeah.
um, and stuff like that. Cause I actually, this is like news to me. Like I did not know they allowed certain number of toxic carcinogens in our clothes. Did you?
Mm. No, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy to think that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, well, you mentioned it being cheap, and then how what's crazy to me is I saw this I saw this diagram the other day. It's like basically it shows how um, there's 6 or 7 corporations that own majority of the foods, uh, the foods, the world's food supply. So we're talking like Kellogg's, Nestle, da 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 da. Da. All of these companies are basically plant based. They, when I say plant based, yes, you might have a bit of meat in here or there, whatever, but all of these companies are plant based, basically. And
Yeah.
all of them, do you think any of these companies care about, you know, you eating more meat? No, they don't. They care about you buying their product. Do you think they care about your health? No, it's the same with these clothing companies. It's like, do
It's
you think
profit, right?
it's profit? And you see at the end of the day, it's these board members. They have thousands of board members that all they see on a screen at the end of the day is thumbs up or thumbs down. Are we reaching our targets? No. Okay, what do we need to do? Let's do something here. But they don't realize on the ground level the effect that that has. And I'm doing a full circle now because you mentioned buy local. That is like the number one thing you can do when it comes to everything. It's like if you can buy your clothes local, if you can buy your food local, if you can buy your car local, it is just a good starting place for ensuring that you're not getting weird shit that relies on processed bullshit to get to your door,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
That's so, Josh, that's my biggest issue is like, I don't judge people. If someone wants to buy from this Chinese company, Shein, or from Forever 21, like I've done it.
Mm.
The thing is that I like to make people aware that profit and money is what these companies care about at the end of the day. I'm sorry, but like if you think that Nestle gives a shit about your health, like you're going to have to look in like a little bit deeper to everything going on, right?
Yeah.
Because they have bottom lines. Money is what's driving these companies. So that's why I have an issue when, there's stuff like this where why don't we know that like 1 in 5 pieces of clothing has extremely elevated levels of cancer causing chemicals that are super toxic to us? Like I just want people to know, like I think it's our job to, not even our job, it's like our passion to
Mm.
want to, I don't know, educate people that, hey, like there's harmful stuff in what we're putting on and around and in our body, like profit is such a big thing that, drives people. And I think Anthony Augusto, when he was on your show, he said the same thing, like
Mm.
people start out with a great intention using like coconut oil in their products. And the intention is that they really have a passion to make a product that's not toxic to people, that's made with clean ingredients, right? And then what happens is you get bigger and bigger and bigger. And guess what? Coconut oil is something that, hey, we need to cut this and we need to actually
Mm.
put an inflammatory oil like palm oil into
Mm.
it instead, because we can't afford that. And again, it's the profit. It's the people that are, your partners in it, because now it's not just you. You have
Mm.
like investors, you have people that need to see the numbers that are like relying on you. So you have to cut and make certain things. And unfortunately, quality is a lot of the times is what, gets sacrificed or gets, just like, oh, it's fine. Like, we'll just get rid of this ingredient that's super good. We'll put something that's a little toxic. Maybe people won't notice, and
Yeah.
we'll still be able to make a higher profit. So people do have good intentions, I think. And I think a lot of times they start out with a vision and clean, healthy ingredients. But like you said, there's other factors,
Mm-hmm.
and money is such a driving force. That's why my problem with big food is that, and my problem with big pharma is that, because, like there's profit on the line, you know? So
Yeah.
I just
And
hope people can, I don't know, learn from that.
mm, and that's a great point because anytime there's profit on the line, humans are invariably going to make weird and wonky decisions. And I'm talking about even let me just say, even in the carnivore community, if you've got an organ supplement company that relies on profit, obviously you're not going to want some study coming out saying that vitamin A toxicity does have an upper limit, and it is possible, and it's very possible, especially for younger people, where their livers are not as well developed, so they can't handle the amount of vitamin A that you're getting from organs. So, yeah, 100%. And I think you said it before. You said sticking to one ingredient foods is like number one. It's like if you can start
Yeah.
doing that, yogurt is literally just fermented milk. Cool, that's one ingredient basically. Meat is meat. Eggs are eggs. Those are one ingredient food. You
I was
can't.
like, I don't know about yogurt. I was like,
Yeah,
yogurt is, people are going to be like, yo, I can eat yogurt. Like, cool.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
I
and
mean,
it's like,
it's
no,
an
I know.
example that, I mean, because it depends what yogurt you get, obviously. But like for the most, if it's organic, it's one ingredient. It's just fermented. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's an extreme example. It's like a processed one ingredient food. But exactly. I mean, when there's profit on the line, you can't make it's hard to make rational decisions about what's actually good for people and what's not, because you've got to please so many people. And these
Yeah.
carnivore influencers now have so many investors probably on the line now. Do you think they can turn around and say, "Oh no, okay, sorry guys, you know what? Hang on, our organ supplements are not working. Let's just retract all of these." No,
Yeah. It's
it's
not going to
like
happen. And whether they
not gonna
do, so
happen.
here's the thing, like whether they do work or not, I think that I've thrived without them for so long, like for 2 years on this diet. And like, I did take Hard Soil for a
Oh
bit.
yeah, yeah.
And like, I
Mm,
remember like, I was like, I had like a code and everything. And I was like, yeah, like take this. Like, I don't think it harms you because I feel like it's such a small amount. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? But
mm,
I now look back at that time and I think, okay, like what does this actually help? Like there is a difference, Um, like I don't know how, what I'm saying is I don't know if the difference is placebo or if the difference is real. Like I will say from time to time, um, like I don't know, like I just I just wouldn't, I don't know. I would just be conscientious in saying like liver and organs are the answer to everything because I don't think they are. I think they're
mm,
just uh like I think it's just I think maybe it can elevate it, but I don't know. I just don't think it's the answer for everything. So that I think we have the same view. And I think like not to like rag on Paul Saladino, but also like I just follow the money. And it's like, oh, like why are people pushing like, these supplements so much? Oh, like they're manufacturing them, like they're selling them. So like, and Josh and I are here. We're not selling you shit. Like
mm.
I'm not selling you shit. Like
Not
I
yet,
I
at
will say
least.
this, people hit me up. No, but people hit me up all the time and they're like, hey, I have this keto product, or hey, like I have this protein powder that's keto, or hey, I have this like beef jerky. And like I look at this stuff and I'm just like, dude, like I don't really like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I don't want to promote something that I'm not even gonna use.
Mm,
Like, because I used to always have a thing like I won't promote something unless like I use it and I actually like
mm,
like it. And so this beef jerky was like reaching out and they were like sugar free and all that. But like I just didn't like, there was an ingredient that I just like didn't like. And I'm
mm.
like, yeah, I'm not down
Yeah.
to do
And I
that.
mean, that's the thing, like, and that's why I enjoyed speaking to Judy, is because she told me to make sole water. So
Yeah.
I did it. That was free. It's basically just taking a cup of salt. I did put up a video recently, so if you want to go watch how to make it, it's really easy. But literally, that didn't cost her anything, and it's the easiest thing in the world, and it's completely free, and it's made a huge difference to my health and well-being. So she didn't sell me. I mean, you can go buy the expensive, element
Yeah. The
packets.
electrolytes. Yeah.
That's cool. Like I don't mind that, because that's a product that I would probably use every day. But before I went and bought that, I just wanted to try the Soleil water to see if that would make a difference, and it did. So I'm sticking to it right now. But it
Yeah.
just depends. It just depends where you sit in the spectrum, and what you're involved in is going to determine your beliefs about it. And humans are so funny, is that the deeper you get into it, the sort of sunk cost fallacy is like, the deeper you get into it, the more your bias is going to tend to want to confirm the original ideas you had. So therefore, you're going to be so far into whatever you're doing, you're not going to want to shift your way of thinking. And
Yeah.
I'm always, to be honest with you, I'm always thinking about that. I'm always saying, okay, like, what am I living in this echo chamber too much now? How can I be thinking differently? How can I change things up a bit? And yes, my diets and stuff has evolved, but for the most part, it's stayed the same. It's simple. I'm not taking any supplements. Occasionally, I'll have like one bit of magnesium after a heavy day of training. I'll have like 100 milligrams of magnesium at night, or I'll put some magnesium spray on. Or
And that's because you know that maybe you don't absorb that as much, or
yeah, or
you're
you just
lacking that,
feel
which is
like
fine. Like if people
yeah,
need to do that, yeah, like if you find out you're low in something
mm,
and maybe you're not absorbing it from something,
mm,
like from eating certain foods, then absolutely take a fucking supplement. Like no one's
mm,
like telling you like you can't do that, like
mm.
I think that's awesome because you know what you need.
Yeah, and again, like we've spoken about it before, but nothing on earth beats consistency. So
Yeah.
you've taken 20, 30, some people 40 years to damage and fuck your gut up. Do you think after 2, even 3 years of carnivore, you're going to be completely healed? No, you're going to have days when you don't feel good. You're going to have days where you feel like shit. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
you need to go and jump on the organ or the honey bandwagon. You can,
Yeah.
you can, I mean, you can do that. I'm not
Wait,
telling you not to.
wait.
But what I'm saying is you don't have to hop from one thing to another. If you are consistent with it and you stick it out and you allow your body time to adapt, it's one of the best things you can do. Yeah.
Totally. Wait, you just touched on honey. I met a guy last night. This is the first carnivore that I've met like in Idaho and Boise where I live. And I met him at a bonfire last night, which
Was
was
he
kind of
wearing a
gnarly.
carnivore
And like
shirt?
still, no, no, no. Like
I'm
one of my
kidding.
friends introduced me to him and he's like, oh, you have to meet this guy. Like he's also carnivore. And I was like, oh, cool. Like now I'm being like set up like friends, with friends. But I found it so interesting. He's a nurse. He's been like an ER nurse for a really long time. We definitely share, I would say, similar views in terms of carnivore, kind of like making it your own. He's into heavy weightlifting, mostly kettlebells. Um, Knows a lot of shit about that. Has had back issues, like a slip disc, like me as well. And we were talking about that. So, like, really glad I met him. But it was so funny because we were talking about, and he was talking about like the fruit that he consumes. And I was like, oh, you must be like more into like the Paul Saladino way because he's fit, is what my point is like people have to take in context that the people that are adding fruit and eating levels of fruit. So he'll say on the days he works out, he'll eat like 2 bananas, um, like which for that was like the first I've ever heard people on carnivore eating bananas because they're so carb high and they're also like so sugary.
Hmm.
But he said like 2 bananas and then like was also talking about like some rice, which I got kind of confused about. But anyway, I was like just listening and I'm like, you know what, it's great that I think he knew the days when he works out really hard. Like I would say he's probably like similar to CrossFit, like what he's doing. He'll eat fruit. And I'm like, cool. But at the same time, like people take that out of context or they see Paul Saladino eating all this fruit, or like he has like a cutting board and it's the biggest cutting board you've ever seen. And there's like melons and fruit and dates and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, I guess he's just eating that. But I don't know. It's just remember to not take things out of context
Hmm.
because like this guy I met last night who's always been in really good shape and been like a very high performing athlete. And then Paul Saladino, who's always been in shape, who's also a high performance athlete as well. Like he's a surfer and stuff too. Just know that they eventually got to the point where their body could handle certain fruits, and certain maybe like seeds or certain rice, like you do rice refeed days.
Hmm.
So just know that people eventually got there. But like we've talked about this, when I went into carnivore in order to like get rid of what I had, like it was like 5 months of being pure,
Yeah.
5 months of like eating 2 steaks a day and like butter and like just like that was life. And that's what cured me. It was not the honey. It was not the berries. Like I'll still even eat berries now. And like I still get like some stomach upset. Like we had bacon wrapped dates the other night, which were like so good. And I usually make that and deviled eggs when people come over. And I enjoyed it so much. But I definitely was like feeling like some different indigestion than
Mm,
normal from the
mm,
dates.
mm,
But anyways, I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was so interesting hearing how much fruit he eats. And it reminded me of Carnivore Aurelius and
mm.
Paul Saladino, who again are fit to begin with. Like they weren't trying to lose weight. They weren't trying, I don't know, like it just works with their system. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to throw that out there.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Like context is so, so important. And instead of assuming things, just ask better questions and you'll find out what really is going to suit your lifestyle and your way of being. But again, that just comes from not latching on to these gurus and people that have millions of, TikTok followers and shit like that because they're making cool videos, like Liver King and stuff. Yeah, it's all cool. It's really cool. He's a jack dude. But people don't have any idea what happens behind the scenes. You don't
Yeah.
know what Carnivore Aurelius is doing behind the scenes. You don't know what Paul
I don't even know what he
Saladino's.
looks like.
Yeah, there's that. But you don't know what Liver King's doing behind the scenes. You don't care. And let me just say as well, like these guys are doing a service to the world. I mean, we've said it before. Remove processed bullshit. You are 70% of the way there. But just be careful, So I'm not saying these guys are, and what they're doing is excellent, and it's providing the message of health and good and well being and stuff, and it's cool. But just be careful, and the context is so important because I think the realm that we're speaking in is about healing from gut issues, things that have
Trauma.
really, yeah, and the exact trauma and things that have like affected you on more of a spiritual level than anything, not just getting a bit of eczema and it's like, oh, I want to get rid of my eczema, let me just go and meat based.
Or like
There's
I
more.
want abs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, that's not certainly not my target audience because I don't have skin in the game when it comes to that. I don't have a six pack of abs and I'm not a bodybuilder, but I can tell you a lot about, how to better your spirituality or how to lose weight sustainably, things like that. So skin in the game plays a big
Yeah.
aspect. And yeah, I just think people should be careful about latching on to these gurus, health gurus
Just be
unexpectedly.
open. Just be
Mm.
open. I think there's going to be so many people you meet and there's so many different ways. And then you find what works for you and you change things a little bit. But any, I guess, closing notes for this is especially, I guess, um, don't be vegan when you're pregnant because you won't get all the nutrients your baby needs.
Mm.
Um, Test your vitamin levels if you're curious, regardless of the diet that you follow. Test your vitamin levels, see where you're at, and then find out the foods that are maybe heavy in the vitamins you need and start eating those or incorporating those more into your diet. Don't buy cheap clothes. Like you can, but like imagine that like this is something that came out. Imagine how many more are like this. And then, just know that, I don't know, there's toxic chemicals all over the place, dude. Like
Mm.
just try to limit things as much as you can and avoid the processed food. um and yeah, anything else to add, Josh?
No, I think you pretty much covered it all. As
Don't
frustrating
be
as the
vegan
beginning,
during
as
pregnancy.
frustrating as the beginning of this episode was, we managed to get through it.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
And we'll just redo your topic. You guys have a great topic that you want to talk about at length.
yeah.
Maybe that'll just be like a whole thing about different good stressors.
Mm.
And we'll talk all about that. But
Yeah, I look forward to
episode
that.
13, we out. Awesome,
We out.
Josh. Bye,
Peace.
everyone. Like and subscribe. This is my shameless plug.
Mm.
Like us, subscribe us, ping us on Instagram, and let us know what you want to talk about. Let us know I'm also curious, like if someone has a story or something that cured them and they want to maybe talk about it or something, like happy to share your story,
Mm.
so that more people can know about it. But yeah,
Yeah,
happy days.
cool. Cheers.